Hello, and welcome to Hard Conversations. This is a podcast about male sexuality, intimacy, and sex positivity, where we unpack the taboo topic of erectile issues in a safe, non-judgmental space. And now, here's your host, sex therapist, Timothy Norton.
Hello and welcome to Hard Conversations. My next guest, Stephen Hayes, is a Nevada Foundation professor in the Behavior Analysis program at the Department of Psychology at the University of Nevada. An author of 44 books and nearly 600 scientific articles, his career is focused on an analysis of the nature of the human language and cognition and the application of this to the understanding and alleviation of human suffering. He's the developer of relational frame theory, an account of human higher cognition, and has guided its extension to acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT, a popular evidence-based form of psychotherapy that uses mindfulness, acceptance, and values-based methods. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, happy to be here, Tim.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Before I got into sex therapy, I was a therapist, a regular therapist, and ACT was definitely one of the first kinds of therapy that I got really excited about right out of grad school. And I haven't done an actual big training, but I've got a few books and I've always got my eye on what you guys are up to, and it's really cool. Can you tell us about ACT generally?
Sure. It's about 30 years old, but it actually is just now penetrating into the cultural mainstream. There's enough folks out there, enough therapists and so forth, and books and so forth that people easily can access it. But what we basically tried to do is dig down to what is the roots of human difficulty, and pointed to how we have this kind of mismatch between things that are ancient, they're 500 million years old, being able to respond to your past history with emotions, for example, that show up in the present. That requires a learning process that we know is a characteristic of every species that evolved during the Cambrian period and forward. That's 545 million years ago. With this new thing that you and I are doing right now. And, the chimps don't do it. Other primates don't do it. But your 12-month-old baby is starting to learn how to do it. And it changes things. And it changes how we interact even with our own body, how we attend to the world around us. And what ACT tries to do is to manage that conflict between language and cognition, between what's going on, quote, in the mind, unquote, and these more ancient processes of just how your body works, and also how basic processes of learning and emotional response works. So you could say what ACT is doing is combining acceptance and mindfulness processes with commitment and behavior change processes in order to produce more psychological flexibility, more ability to behave in different ways when something that you're doing isn't working anymore, and to do it in a way that allows you to come into the present as a conscious person, but one with a history that, because you have that mind you've got, any past thing, whether it's a betrayal or a humiliating event, an anxiety-provoking event, can be carried with you for the rest of your life and brought to mind with just an instant. You're never free from pain because you can always remember it, no matter how wonderful and beautiful the situation around you. And to be able to carry that, but then move your attention towards what really brings meaning and purpose in your life. What are the qualities of your being and doing that you want to put into your moments? The qualities of relating and creating and having fun, and creating habits of action that fit with what you really desire instead of what you fear. And that combination turns out to be pretty powerful. The ACT literature, when you first contacted it, it's moving so fast, something like 70% of the studies have been done in the last 5 years. A new randomized trial every 10 days over the last 5 years. There's literally thousands of studies now that show that being able to approach your life in a more psychologically flexible way is good for you basically everywhere that a human mind goes, whether it's dealing with mental health issues or physical health issues or what do you do about your business? Or, you know, if, we literally have had Olympic athletes win gold medals pursuing a path that ACT lays out for them. So what is it that's happening in your life? How can you get your mind out of the way and get your head, heart, and hands aligned in a direction that you really care about? That's the basic ACT message. And it's made a big impact on psychology and on the world over the last several years.
Okay. So I have seen a few of those studies. That's so great to hear that there are so many happening right now. And I'm trying to imagine the design of a study that would deal with erectile issues.
Sure.
And so I think about psychological flexibility, and I think about, let's identify like a really typical inflexible thought, like my penis is broken, or I'm not going to be able to perform tonight.
Sure.
So how might an ACT therapist deal with somebody like that who's been struggling for a couple of years with this, and these are the thoughts that come into his head the moment he set up the date, and then just plaguing him, keeping up at night?
Well, you know, it's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I mean, we wouldn't be here on the planet if your body didn't know something about how to do sexual intercourse. So that's pretty much why we're here.
Right.
And not too long ago, 200,000 years ago, maybe 2 million years ago, we know it can't be too much more because our common ancestors, the chimpanzees, don't do what your 12-month-old baby is doing. So somewhere in that time frame, we created the ability to relate events in this kind of if-then way, the two-way street of symbols and the events they refer to. Begins just with naming, being able to, you know, say that, you know, this is an apple or whatever, but then it goes out into if-then and to consequences. So if I'm sitting there thinking, boy, if what happened last week happens here, how humiliating that would be. Mm-hmm. Well, you've just done about one of the least arousing things on the planet. Mm-hmm. I mean, you really can't get less sexy than that.
Right.
You know? And so, you know, really your question to me, Tim, is how do you get your mind out of the way so that you can bring these other aspects of you into the situation? And, you know, the early work in sex therapy, sensate focus and all of that, was trying to set up things so that you can kind of, you know, the paradoxical thing of even prohibiting intercourse and so forth. It was all a way to sort of get around these negatively self-amplifying processes of, oh my, what if? That is right inside anxiety disorders, it's inside depression, it's inside substance abuse, and yes, it's inside the bedroom when you're dealing with these kind of sexual issues. And so you're not asking a question that's a narrow question. It's actually quite a broad one of what do you do with an organ between your ears that knows perfectly well how to interfere with the organ between your legs in such a way that you don't get to have what you want to have. And part of what the ACT work would say, and I do have to say that in terms of randomized trials with this problem, I mean, ever since Viagra, et cetera, you know, the research on this has plummeted, as you know, because so many people have gone directly to a chemical solution. But what it would say is, you know, part of what you need to learn to do is how to sort of move your mind to the side. That there's a set of skills that involved in doing that allows you to notice your thoughts. You're not going to stop that without becoming entangled in your thoughts. To see these kind of if-then formulations show up in your mind without actually grabbing hold and going out into the emotional response that those things produce when you really buy into them. I mean, if I were to say, you know, Tim, there's actually a terrorist outside your doors who's got a machine gun and he's coming into your little recording studio there in a few minutes, and he's going to shoot the place up. You don't believe me, so you probably didn't have much of an emotional response there. Maybe the tiniest little thing if we had you wired up. If you actually believed me, I'd say you're terrified right now. Well, you're in the same situation when you're dealing with what your mind has to say about sexual, quote, performance. I mean, even the freaking word performance. You're performing? Really? You're like a performing clown? What are you, a performing act? What is this? That even the way we think about the issue, sexual dysfunction, what is going on there? It is, I get it, but it's very judgmental. It's, people would almost be ashamed to say it out loud. Oh, we have to come up with initials. I've got ED, you can't even say the words. It's like back when I was a kid, and I'm old enough when you couldn't say pregnant. You had to say PG. Now we're doing ED, because we almost don't want to say the words because of the emotional punch that they have. And so part of the agenda here is going to have to be how to rein in your logical, analytical, problem-solving, judgmental mode of mind, which is great when you're doing your taxes, and is just awful when you're in bed with a lover. It's not the organ that you want to have run the show.
So there, you said if I see the if-then in my mind,
yeah, which you will,
but I don't want to buy into it,
right?
And you said that there's a set of skills that can teach me how to do that. Can you teach me one? Can you teach the listeners one?
Sure, I could. Okay, so for example, we call it diffusion. It's a made-up word. The first word we had for it in the act work was deliteralization, and I couldn't say the freaking thing, so we made up another word.
Okay.
It's not diffusion, like, something that happens with salt and water. It's diffusion, a made-up word. And the word fusion means to pour together. It's from a Latin word. It means to pour. And there's just like lemonade, it's hard to sort of separate out, where the specific things you put together to make lemonade begin and end. It's one thing called lemonade, right? Mm-hmm. Well, when the mind gives you something to pour into your whole of your experience, some of which are sensitive to things that are 500 million years old, some of them go beyond that. I mean, our basic, biology of being able to sense and feel and respond sexually, for example, is as old as multicellular organisms. It's ancient stuff, but it gets poured in together with this mind of ours. And so the diffusion deal is allowing yourself to have skills that help you have thoughts and notice them without entering into the world that they portray, and then trying to negotiate a deal inside that world. Most of us, I think, are used to trying to negotiate that deal. Like, okay, what if you just let me have this moment? I'll think of something else. I'll distract myself. But really, the tune is being called by your analytic, judgmental mind. So you're already screwed because you're already in the wrong territory. I'll give you an example. This is I'm going to give you 2 or 3 examples, because the initial ones will sound trivial, and I want to drill down to something that has a little more heart to it. But first, I need some examples that are simple. Let's say you had distill a negative thought that you have, since you do work in the area of these sexual issues. Distill it down to a critical, self-judgmental thought. Okay. I don't know what it would be. Give me an example of one.
So I'm impotent.
I am impotent. And then you just feel the punch of that and the narrowing down it has, almost like a cage you're in, right? Mm-hmm. It's very judgmental. It's harsh. It's categorical. How are you going to escape this? All of these things are not arousing, by the way. Or if they're arousing, they're arousing in a totally different way. They're arousing in a fear way. Okay, so what if we instead said that word in the voice of Donald Duck?
Oh boy.
Would it land the same way? I'd say probably not. How about in the voice of your least preferred politician? How about what would happen if you sang it? Take there's things like Songify. You can easily get them on the App Store. Pick your favorite music, say the words "I'm impotent" into it, and it'll create a song out of it. A rap song or whatever you like, some musical The hills are alive with my impotence. I don't know what it would be.
Uh-huh.
Well, in that, I'll give you another one. This was Titchener, who's sort of the father of American psychology, did this back in 1907. We were the first to ever use it clinically. Take the word impotent and say it out loud about once per second for 30 seconds in a row.
Impotent.
By the time you get to the end of 30 seconds, just anybody listen to me, just do it. Just try it. By the time you get to the end of those 30 seconds, you'll experience a diminishment in distress and a diminishment in believability. It's kind of like that movie Alien. It's an old movie, where the creature jumps on their face and sticks their thing down their throat, because it's going to. If we could pry that monster off our face so we can look at it rather than just so we can look at it but still see something else rather than when it's right up on our face and the only thing we can see is I'm impotent, thought about in the normal way. Who knows what else is possible? I mean, you're still going to have that thought, of course. If you have a history of quote-unquote impotence, at a moment in which you're lying there with your beautiful lover and you're picturing how cool that would be, guess what's going to come into your mind? Mary had a little... What just came to your mind?
Lamb.
Yes. Oh my God, what if I'm...
Impotent.
Yeah, of course. And okay, now suppose we try to think of something other than lamb. Let's do that example. So you have to come up with an answer, Tim, that has absolutely nothing to do with lamb whatsoever. I'm going to say the words Mary had a little, and then you have to have something come up in your mind that has absolutely nothing whatever to do. And everybody listening should try this, okay? Mary had a little...
Car.
Okay. Did you do what I asked?
I tried to come up with something completely unrelated.
Right. Now, and you came up with car, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Now, I'm going to give you a little task here. Hot.
Cold.
Yeah. Black.
White.
Car.
Lamb.
Car. You see the problem?
Yeah.
It's related. Look, but your mind, this is the negotiation I'm talking about. We try to get in there and negotiate on its own terms. I'll think about something different. No, dude, if you're thinking about something different, in order not to think about that, you're in a bad Verizon commercial. Am I there yet? Am I there yet? Am I there yet? And the answer is always no, because the relation of different, opposite, are also relations. That's not logical. It's psychological. There's no delete button in the nervous system. There's no eraser. If you've ever been through an experience of losing an erection in a way that's embarrassing to you, that experience will be with you for the rest of your freaking life, and that word impotent will bring it to mind, won't it? Yeah. So if you're trying to think of something else so that you don't think of that, guess what? You've now created yet another pathway to think about it. Now, thank you very much, Tim. I've got car and lamb put together. I mean, we could do it over and over again, and everyone now would be a new groove, a new pathway. It's like all roads lead to Rome. I bet you people listening to us have noticed how when you struggle with this, pretty soon it's like impotence is every freaking where. Every freaking where. If I say, oh, I've been feeling a little bit limp lately, even the name of your podcast, right?
Right.
It's a little play, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had to think about it hard. No, I didn't. But, and all roads start leading to Rome. Have you not noticed that? Yeah. Well, so eventually, it can become like the central focus of your freaking life. You're talking to a person who's got into ACT because of panic disorder, and panic and anxiety was the central focus of my entire life. 85-90% of my waking moments were spent watching out for the anxiety monster that was about to show up, because I knew I could get so anxious I couldn't function. That's called a panic attack. I couldn't give lectures. I couldn't function. Well, that's not that different than what you're dealing with, and you're dealing with, quote, ED. So back to the Mary Had a Little Lamb thing. if we're not going to do it by just thinking differently, if we're not going to do it by distraction, then what if we could diminish the domination of the voice within? Like you just did if you take that word and said it out loud for 30 seconds, about once per second, fast, right? Or if you actually were somebody who, when they heard me, started imagining what I'm impotent would sound like in the voice of your least favorite politician. It might be enough. A little crack in the system opens up where there's another possibility, which is, what if we had some fun here tonight? What, you can't have fun and also have a mind? Well, not if you enter into your mind, because your mind doesn't know how really to let you off the hook. And so what's in the ACT work are these diffusion methods. There's hundreds of them. I've given you just 3. You can make up your own that gradually diminish the domination of the dictator within. Because the dictator within, frankly, doesn't know how to make love. It only knows how to judge and evaluate and to plan and regulate. And that's fine when you're doing your taxes. It's not fine when you're having fun. It's not fun.
Yeah. And why does that dominating voice interfere with my erection if I'm saying it over and over again?
Well, because that voice is useful to you. I don't want to be a dog or a cat. You know, if you're talking into a microphone here, without that tool, there wouldn't be any microphone. And oh, by the way, you wouldn't have those clothes, some of which may have been made from oil, but they look like cloth. And those earphones in your head wouldn't exist. And I don't know what temperature it is where you are right now, but you'd be sick of sitting out naked in the field, and it would be whatever temperature is around you, plus your animal skins you can wrap around. You know, I don't want to live in that world. I want my logical, analytical, judgmental, predictive, problem-solving mind. But there's another mode of mind. There is a mode of mind that we all know about. We all have. We are not just logical machines. If you were to see a sunset tonight, Tim, and it's like spectacular, my guess is your first word out of your mouth is wow. And you're probably not going to be the next sentence like, but it needs a little more pink. Mm-hmm. You probably, or that cloud over there is a little misshaped. You know, it'd be prettier if it had like you probably wouldn't do that. If you had a crying child in front of you right now, talking about an abuse that they've experienced, probably the first word out of your mouth is going to be wow. You're probably not going to say, God, but you talk about something a little less depressing. Now here's what I'm saying. We have within us the capacity for appreciation and observation and just noticing, right? What if you brought that repertoire to you, that more mindfulness, if you want a word for it? If you want one that's not so airy-fairy, how about wowfulness? You've got the wow capacity in you. Everybody listening to me knows how to do it. The mind doesn't get it. The judgmental mind is going to look at the sunset and say, I need a little more pink. And your enjoyment of the sunset has now disappeared. You know, it can look at your penis and say, I need a little more hardness. And that's what you're going to get. The exact opposite, because that's not arousing. Could you instead come into the wowfulness, for example, of being with a person that you love and care about, and being a whole human being who has a sensory capacity for connection with other human beings, which is why we even exist as a species? Could you get out of your own freaking way and just have some fun? And okay, if it comes or it goes, if it's hard or it's soft, what freaking difference does it make in some grand scheme of things? I mean, you can still, for example, be a pretty good lover. You absolutely can. Use whatever tools you got, literally or otherwise. Mm-hmm. But if you really get out of your way, you know, you have the capacity, maybe, who knows, we'll see, for a larger set of responses to show up in this situation. Some of it might be just appreciating beauty, appreciating sensation, appreciating connection, being able to be there for someone else, focusing on their well-being, not just yours. Much less about performance and putting on a show. And, no wonder that leads to limp penises. Just talking about it is creepy, I don't want to put on a show. I don't want to perform. What am I some sort of weird, monkey on a chain? If you want to make love, well, let's do what the loving thing is to do, not just with others, but with yourself, which is to be a whole human being and to allow parts of you to be expressed that other parts of you don't know how to express. The judgmental, analytical, critical, shameful, etc. mode of mind that we normally bring to the bedroom is just not helpful.
But these thoughts are so persistent. So I'm imagining here, okay, my partner is sexy, but I'm not going to be able to perform. And I love my partner.
Wait a minute, slow it down. You had the thought you're not going to be able to perform.
You
don't know that you're, A, even performance is the wrong word. B, the future's not here yet, dude. You don't know that you're not going to be able to, quote, be able to perform. Now, let's just look at it. Ability? Do you mean you never get an erection anywhere? Really? Well, if that's the case, you got to go see your physician. But if you're waking up with a hard on, if you're masturbating, that's not the issue.
Right.
Right? Okay. So it's not an ability issue. So that's a lie. That thought's not true, right? It's a prediction of the future. Okay, I get it. This problem-solving organ, if you're going to solve any problem, when you, I didn't finish my rap, but when you asked why, this thing is so useful. Problem solving is useful in a massive amount of your day. How do I get to the meeting? What do I need to be prepared? Do I have enough gas in the tank to get there? Do I have enough money to buy the gas to put it in the tank? On and on and on. It's so massively useful. And here's a place where it's not useful. Well, it's not going to tell you how to dismantle itself. It doesn't know about that. The problem-solving mind knows about problem-solving. That's the only thing it knows about. It's a one-trick course. And so it gets in the way. It doesn't know how to get itself out of the way. It offers you only the possibility of distraction or thinking about it differently, all of which put you back into the lamb problem of grooving yet another new way to be reminded of something that you're afraid of cognitively. So let's slow it down, Tim. So you have the thought, I'm not going to be able to perform.
Okay,
Thank your mind very much. One thing I suggest, a quick one, give your mind a name. Pick any name you like.
Bartholomew.
Okay, so thank Bartholomew for his wonderful attempt to be of help to you today.
Thanks, Bart.
Thanks, Bart. You're trying to be of help. I get you're trying to be of help. But frankly, you're not very useful here.
Right. It's like I thought I was just going to go and have sex. Now it's like there's a threesome. Now Bart's in the room.
Exactly. It's actually a foursome because of course your partner has their own Bart.
Okay, partners. So this is almost an orgy here.
It's almost an orgy. Unfortunately, those two over there are like the the Greek chorus judging and criticizing. So they're not very fun foursome.
They're the worst kind of sex partner.
They're not a very good sex partner. But so let's just thank Bart for trying to be of help.
Okay.
And then
appreciate it.
And then now can we learn the skills as to how to bring your attention back to the present moment?
Wait, why am I thanking him? I want him to get lost.
Because he's trying to do his job. He's trying to keep you, for example, oh God, you shouldn't have even accepted this date. Look, yet another thing. It's going to be so humiliating. They're going to talk about you back at the office. I don't know what's in your head, but it's something, right? Mm-hmm. All of which are not very helpful to you. But Bart's trying to be of help to you because it's trying to solve the problem.
Yeah, I'm afraid I'm going to be alone forever.
Yeah.
And so he's just trying to make sure that I'm not.
No, you're not. But in that very process is aloneness. is disconnection from even who you are, disconnection from your own body. Never mind disconnecting from the other human being that your mind has now put you in a position of performing for. Why don't you just jump up from the bed and put on a costume and start performing? I mean, why don't you just start singing the songs, dancing around the room? I mean, if you want to perform, just go do that. But if, it's not a performance, it's a connection. And I love the fact that you brought up aloneness. Look, the mind doesn't know how fully to connect with another human being except for one aspect, which is also there. It's not the judgmental mind. It's the part of you that looks at a sunset and go, wow. Or the part of you that can look at your lover and just appreciate a whole human being in front of you who's willing to be with you in that moment. And could we be together as whole human beings? With minds, I get it. We got minds. With a history, I get it. You've had this history, and there's times when, your, organs didn't all line up. Okay. But that's not the person in front of you. That's not the connection. I mean, if you build out that connection and you work with how to move your mind a little bit off to the side, enough that you can be in the wow of sensation and sexuality, in the same way that you're in the wow automatically of a sunset tonight, there's a possibility there. You don't know. Be careful. I'm not saying this gives you ammunition to fight your thoughts. This is more like leaving the war zone inside your head and let them fight it out on their own. Meanwhile, you've got some life to live and some love to make. It's like that. And I don't want to make it sound like it's easy. It isn't. It's not hard like it's difficult. It's hard like it's tricky. Because we're the only species on the planet that knows how, because of this evolutionary mismatch, this recent, visitor, this recent skill, to actually so get in our way that we don't know how to sleep. We got to take medications for it. We don't know how to have sex. We got to take medications for it. It's what else we're going to have to get permission even to breathe. I know people who focus on their breathing. They're like, oh God, I can't breathe anymore. Yes, even that. It's almost like nothing left. No territory is sacrosanct. Well, it turns out there are ways to walk that back. Put your mind on a leash. I don't want Bart to go away. There's too many useful things Bart does for me. I just don't want Bart driving my car. If my life is like a car, he can be a passenger, not the driver. This is my life, not yours, Bart. Thank you for trying to help me with this. But frankly, I don't need your help in connecting with others and connecting with my own body.
Bart, it just occurred to me, it is going to remind me to grab a condom.
Sure.
And maybe before the date gets here, that your sheets are clean, that
absolutely,
you've got something to drink, that you took out the trash, and the place doesn't smell, and
you got that music thing you really like all queued up on Apple Music,
right? But now, the guest has arrived, Bart can kind of chill out and hang out. He's not going to leave.
Not going to leave.
He's going to be there. You wish he'd go run some errands or something, but he's not going to leave.
He's not going to leave. So if we've done the work in other places, the place to start is not after you've done all these things and the doorbell rings and here she is. That's not the place to start this work. This is, if work is even the right way to learn this skill. No, start with the other ways that Bart sometimes gets in the way. So it could be all the way down to appreciating exercise, or appreciating listening to music, or appreciating reading a story, or having a conversation, or, Bart doesn't get in the way just in between the sheets. Bart's getting in the way all the time, because Bart even thinks he's you. And he tells you that. You know, that the what is that? Emo Phillips, who's a comedian, the thing of, I used to think my mind was my most important organ until I realized which organ was telling me that. You know, Bart claims it all. When I'm doing a workshop like that on this, I ask people, does anybody in here know how to walk? And sooner or later, somebody says, yeah, they know they're going to get tagged as soon as they say yes. So, yeah, I know how to walk. I said, great, because I want to learn. And I stand up there on stage and I say, I want you to tell me how to do it. And he says, well, pick up your foot. And I say, well, which foot? Oh, the right one. Okay, pick up your right foot. What do I do with it when I pick it up? Well, I put it in front of you. Okay, well, how do I do that? There's usually a little pause, and the person says, well, you contract your muscles. Which one? In your thighs, and it bends your knee, and you lift up, and you then contract the muscles that put your foot forward. I said, great. How do I do that? Now there's a really long pause. And people realize the mind doesn't know how to walk. The mind knows how to regulate walking once you know how to walk. And in fact, kids did not learn that way. They stood up and fell. The average child falls, while learning to walk, a toddler, 100 times a day. And they walk the equivalent of 10 football fields. No wonder mothers are tired. You know, so you fall thousands of times before that foot just happens to catch the fall. And you know, and even then you don't know how to turn. That's why we call them toddlers. They have to do this little rocking thing. You can't even pivot on a foot. You can't have the skills. Now, people, when they have a stroke or something and they need to relearn it, they have a hell of a time learning how to walk, even not because the stroke eliminated the capacity to relearn, but because they don't want to do it the way the kids did it. Too bad. That's the way, you say, shout at their legs, move, damn you. The legs don't have ears. The legs don't give a damn. You know, the legs are not rational beings. You're going to have to do it by trial and error learning. That's the way you learn to walk in the first place. Minds don't like that. They want to do it by problem solving. Well, so we put bars there so you can at least hold yourself. You do have a higher center of gravity. Falling is not as easy when you're a big person as a little one. But my point being, you know, you don't know how to give yourself the space to learn something if it needs to be learned through means that are other than analytic problem solving, except in certain areas. So let's go to those areas even before you get to sexuality, like music, like sports, like art, like appreciation of beauty. Mind doesn't know how to do any of those things. And it also doesn't know how to connect. It doesn't know how to be a whole person because it's not a whole person. It's just part of you. And so you can work on, you know, nowadays you'd call mindfulness skills, how to come into the present moment as a whole human being and learn through means other than analytic judgmental problem solving, because it's not going to help you over here, dude. Analytic judgmental problem solving is the problem, not the solution when you're talking about ED.
Okay. I like the music example. I think I realized somewhere into my study of mindfulness that when I go to a concert, I'm enjoying it for about 15 minutes, and then I'm basically having a complete conversation in my head and just thinking about things completely unrelated to the concert and not in a state of wowfulness at all.
Exactly. And if there's anything new, like if it's a band you really like and they play a different thing because they get bored playing the same freaking things over and over again just because you heard it that way originally, and they just can't stand it, so they're playing like, and then you're going, wait a minute, that's not right. That should be, and you're judging it, and you either like it or you don't like it. But either way, you know, as you get into the chatter, plus you're then glancing at your watch, how long is that going on? You know, they're old. Can they do a set that actually goes 3 hours? I don't think they could, you know, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, the music is happening. And you're off into cognitive land. This is very, very similar because you've lost the wow that probably is why you like that band in the first place.
So are you saying that if I practice being in a state of wowfulness at a concert, that it might translate in the bedroom?
Yes. If you don't turn this into another problem-solving strategy.
Ah, okay.
So this is why it's hard, tricky, not hard, effortful. My son was pointing out to me, he's 13. He got up on a 2x4, and he said, "Watch this, Dad." And he walked along an 8-foot 2x4, turned around, walked back, no problem. And then he said, if this were 10 feet up, that would be hard to do. If this were 1,000 feet up, it would be impossible. And I said, man, this is a smart kid.
Yeah.
Why is it impossible? It's the same freaking movement. Why? Well, because just the fact it's so important. You have to figure out how to walk. Look, that organ didn't know how to walk in the first place. And so it will get in the way of the least thing of just being able to balance yourself, never mind have an erection and interact with another human being. That's a pretty complicated set of behavioral steps, right? But if we can move the mind out of the way, if we can take the, oh no, judgment thing, look, the world is not going to end and your relationship isn't going to end. If you're a whole human being really connecting powerfully with another human being, there's a lot of ways to be sexual in this moment beyond it has to be this way, this one way that your mind conceives. Let your body do the thinking here. Let the two of you do the dancing here. Here's another one, dancing. Have you ever started thinking about how to dance and you start thinking about what are the moves you need to dance? And next thing you know, you're like your partner's making a movement and you're stepping on their feet. Mm-hmm. I bet you there are times where you can just dance. You can dance freely and joyfully. You allow your mind, with all due respect, Bart's not a very good dancer. He's thinking about those little, did you actually learn those things where you had like footprints with numbers on them? Like,
yeah.
I guess nowadays, dance is so informal in so many ways. We don't dance classic dances as much. But I think most of you appreciate Bart's not a very good dancer.
Right.
Also not a very good love maker. Also not a very good conversationalist. Also not a very good artist. Also not a very good musician. Also not a very good appreciator of a sunset or being connecting to somebody when they're suffering. So let's bring our wowfulness mode of mind that we have and build that sucker out. And I would say, yes, music, dance, but not as a tool to do the same damn thing you started with, which is to self-manipulate.
If not as a tool, then, well, this reminds me of one of the things that I like about what I've learned about ACT is there's a focus, especially early on values.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, well, should I just value being in a state of wellfulness? Like that has to probably be important to me in a genuine sense that I want to enjoy the music because I want to enjoy the music.
Exactly. And out of that space, I want to enjoy this moment sexually because, excuse me for living, I'm a sexual being and this is fun.
Right.
You don't like it, Bart? You can sit in the corner and watch, but I'm not turning this moment over to you, dude, because I've done that before and I know where you go and it's just not very interesting. It's not very fun.
Oh, Bart's a bit of a cuckold.
For sure.
He's just, yeah, okay.
So I like what you just said, Tim, because if you can get your values connected up to things like being a whole human being, to belong and connect with others, to put love into your life and not fear, to accept yourself as a whole human being, not acceptance like tolerance or resignation, but I mean the original meaning of acceptance, which is to receive. It's from a Latin word, means to receive, and it was used to mean to receive as if to receive a gift. And it's only in English barely. It's like, here, would you accept this? And we say, yes. We don't mean, oh, I'll tolerate your freaking gift. We mean, yeah, cool, awesome, that's beautiful, thank you. And in the same way, when you accept the whole of you, you're doing something that's right up against the vitality of accepting the whole of this moment that might include some awesome sex. That would be really cool. And if it's not that, well, then it still includes, some awesome body rubbing or some awesome kissing or some just being with another human being. And so I don't know, what are the values that are inside your date right now? If it's performance, if it's putting on a show, and if it's especially linked to not having X, your partner's going to feel that. They're going to sense that they're being objectified and dehumanized in the same way that you're objectifying and dehumanizing yourself in that very moment. And my guess is it's not very attractive.
Yeah, if you're not even valuing connection going into the situation, it's going to show.
It's going to show. And have you ever been around somebody where you're just there as an object?
Yeah, once or twice.
Do you want relationships like that?
No.
Do you seek them out? You call people up, say, "Hey, I want to be objectified again."
I just want to sit in the corner and let you talk at me for an hour or two. Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if that's true there, how about this gut check moment? Maybe this moment, for example, this ED moment, has a message to you that is a precious gift. It's a painful gift, but it's a precious gift. It's like, thank God for panic, because without it, I don't know how far I could have turned myself into the Vita-producing robot that I was heading down towards, where, even the least human emotion was like something to be overridden. If you stood between me and a publication, you're going down, dude. And I get the little boy who, ended up there. I get that. And I'm an adult now. Excuse me. That's not what I want my career to be about. Turns out, I've published a lot, I've done a lot, but turns out to get in my own way, there was a lot of fun things to do and valuable things to do. In the same way, can we take the deep learning that's inside that painful emotion of, I don't get to be my whole self if I turn over my life to judgment and problem solving, self-criticism, blame and shame, if I self-objectify, self-dehumanize. And out of that, I begin to objectify and dehumanize these people that I say I want to, quote, make love to. Well, love is not that. When it's done to you, it doesn't feel loving. So what are you doing that in the language of love? How about doing the loving thing, which is to start with, it's okay to be me, and then to really listen and interact with somebody else out of this loving space of, who is this human being in front of me? And wow, what are they like? And what is their opinion? And move Bart a little bit off to the side to do that. You don't have to put tape over Bart's mouth. Bart can still be there. You want clean sheets, but he's not the whole of you. And that values-based journey gives you a different place to put the pain you've been through, other than just more wagging fingers of shame and blame.
There's a lot of really wonderful things for us to fuse with here in your words. There are some things that
or maybe connect with. If you fuse with them, then you turn them. Actually, we have data on this. Even if you break through and you have those moments, if you then get attached to them, it's another form of the same thing. So we found just recently, and I didn't see it for the longest time. I thought originally, I called it experiential avoidance, which is running from your painful emotions, right? Mm-hmm. It turns out, as you do that, you start running from your positive emotions too. And then the next thing you do is, when you have positive emotions, you grab onto them and you try to fix them in place and hold onto them, which means you can't have them anymore. It's like grabbing a butterfly and sticking it on through a pin into your bulletin board and then saying, "Flap for me." Mm-hmm. No, it's not going to. It's just stuck there. It's not the same thing as a butterfly flittering by. It's now kind of pale, little stuck on the board version of itself. And so you got these precious little memories of that awesome sexual encounter, for example. And now you've got it like a little stone in a box, and you can go, "Ooh, look at that." And then, meanwhile, you got somebody right in front of you who you're not even there for. And, so it isn't just pain. We don't know how to connect with pleasure either, because we want to make it permanent. There's a reason why drug addicts call the things that they take a fix, because it both means repair and hold it in place. And, if that's a good model for you of psychological health, then great, you go for it and see how that works out in your life. Because if you need to be repaired before you get to be a whole human being, and then you get the positive things and hold them in place, what you'll get is life lived inside a clown suit that will disconnect you from really being able to be a loving human being.
Well, but then if I can't hang on to this stuff, why bother?
Well, because there's a journey here. There's a thing called life. And you tell me, think about this, Tim. Think about the moments in your life that are especially meaningful to you, especially powerful, especially important. If you just allow your mind to sort of scan across it, I bet you find some tears in there. I mean, I was sat next to my mother about 2 years ago and watched her die. I watched her feet turn black. I watched her breath space out. And that was a precious moment. It was a holy moment. It was a sacred moment. Was it painful? Yeah. Was it sad? Absolutely. So, the organ between your ears doesn't get that. I'll give you a way of your listeners can sense this. You can only say good and bad. Okay, I'm going to say a word, and in response, you can only say good and bad.
Okay.
Okay. Happy.
Good.
Sad.
Bad.
Joyful.
Good.
Anxious.
Bad.
Okay. That system just told me that sad is bad. You just said it. You said it. I heard it. It's on recorded. It's recorded.
I said it.
You can't run away from it.
I can edit this later, but I said it.
Okay. I'm sitting next to my 91-year-old mother, who I love dearly, and I'm watching her feet turn freaking black as her renal system shuts down. Sad's bad, right? You son of a bitch. I mean, you told me that. But it isn't just you, Tim. It's me. It's everybody. And that Bart is so freaking stupid that it'll take your love for your mother and turn it into an object to be manipulated. And it will do that with sexuality. It'll do that with music. It'll do that with dancing. It'll do that with life. So when you ask that question of why, here's why. Because there's life to be lived. There's love to be made. There's contributions to be, there's communication, there's recreation. So can we open up the windows and get a little air in this room? Because we're feeding with our media and with our screens and with the hyper flow of pain and judgment, newscasts or judgment casts. If anything sick happened in the universe, you can see it on your screens. Now, I'm old enough to remember where you couldn't put a picture of a dead soldier in the New York Times during the Vietnam War without an outcry. Now you can watch people drown. You can watch them head being blown off. So we've created this world in which we're hyper judgmental, hyper critical. And oh, by the way, did I mention comparison? The toxic big three: judgment, pain, and comparison. I was looking at a photo recently of an Aboriginal person sitting under a gum tree with a didgeridoo and a loincloth, the whole 9 yards. And he has his fingers on his iPhone, checking out what's happening. Then you can look in Donald Trump's bedroom if you want to. I mean, you just go up and get the tour. You can see the gold-plated doorknobs and in a billionaire's house. Well, you can also see these images. You want to watch, hyper-competent sexuality, you can watch the porn from morning to night. You're not going to see erectile dysfunction. That's not going to happen. And in there is this idea that you're supposed to be like Peter North or something in order to be able to have a relationship. It's the functional equivalent to, looking at the gold-plated doorknobs in the bathroom when you've got your little house, and it turns out, we don't need gold-plated doorknobs. And it turns out you don't need to be Peter North. And basically, is that really what we want to be anyway? So we're going to have to learn how to carry. Let me say it this way, Tim. We're going to need modern minds for this modern world. We need to be especially good, way beyond our ancestors, at being able to be mindful and being able to come into the present and to be able to focus on our values and build our behavior around that. And the institutions that used to do that for us, the spiritual and religious traditions, for example, are weakening. And we need to put something else in the modern world that helps us just be able to be whole human beings if we're not going to do it in the same way. And so I think a wiser way forward with our own emotions, sensations, memories, bodily sensations is there to be had and there to be learned. And people listening to this podcast, you have a goad to learn it. You have a reason to learn it.
A modern mind for the modern world.
We better do it. Because you just look around you and you see what's happening, not just to you, but your kids and to the culture. And people are, stumbling under the weight of this constant flow of pain, judgment, and comparison. And even in the bedroom, so nothing's sacred. I mean, nothing's sacrosanct. There's no place to run. Let's turn 180 degrees and stop running away and start running towards the capacity to be whole human beings and learn how to do that.
Wow. There's a lot to take in there. And I just want to thank you for doing this interview. You're obviously very accomplished. I was very happy when you said yes to this. And it's clear from just talking to you for an hour that we could probably do this for 8 hours and come up with all kinds of...
Yeah, it'd be fun.
It would be.
I was tempted to, but never went into my own ED history. But let me just say, I know a little bit of this from the inside out.
Oh, okay.
So I'm a fellow traveler. And, I think we have the opportunity as a human culture to soften this space so that we give people a place to be that is whole and healthy and caring and loving. And it allows us to do what we would really want to do anyway, which is pretty simple. I think we want to belong, we want to connect, and we want to do what it brings meaning and purpose into our lives. And it ain't all up to Bart.
Right. Oh, so that's a really good point to make, and that you're speaking from experience. And I probably could have even asked that when you told me you had a history of severe panic attacks.
Yeah, you could predict it, right?
Sure, that might have that you might have had a panic attack, being worried about an upcoming sexual encounter or a host of other things. And
for sure. And so, yeah, it's that mode of mind. Bart will once you put Bart in the driver's seat. He'll drive you in lots of creepy directions.
Just the wrong.
Includes this.
Yeah.
But we're the one who put him in the driver's seat. So time's up. Time for something different.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Anything that you want to plug that you're working on right now, or just?
Well, the only thing I would say is if people want to track me, I don't spam you and all that, but I'll let you know about things coming up or books I'm writing or stuff like that. Go to stephenchayes.com. And all you have to do is go in there, and you'll get a little 7 edition mini course on ACT, where I send out. It's an autoresponder; it happens automatically. About once a week, you'll get a little bit of the ACT model, and then if there's something in this talk and something in that sequence, if you do go there, that resonates with you, there's a lot of resources now in terms of self-help and also online communities. There's a Yahoo group I really like called Act for the Public. Very sweet people, several thousand folks working together trying to apply these concepts. And of course, there's a bunch of ACT therapists and stuff if you want that. And you can get that at contextualscience.org and click on the Find a Therapist link. That's the society of folks who develop ACT. So I've written a self-help book called Get Out of Your Mind Into Your Life that might be of useful to people. So, but there's lots of free resources. I'm not just pitching stuff. If something in here connects with you, I'm going to just say there is a way forward. And there's a community that will try to help get that to you in a way that's low cost and no cost.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much, Stephen.
Awesome. Thanks for the time, Tim. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks to the show's executive producer, Robin Morrison. Thanks to Kat Murphy, director of social media. Thanks to Team Scrub for the music. Thanks to the sound engineer, Ravi Carmen. Thanks to Brian Hui for naming the show. Thanks to Alex Pitts for the intro. Thanks to Arlene Asuncion for the logo. You can find this podcast at hardconversationspodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. You can locate me on Twitter at TimNortonLCSW or on my website for my private practice, timnortontherapy.com. You can also email us at hardconversationspodcast@gmail.com or call into our hotline at 662-626-4276. That's 662-MAN-HARD. Thanks to all my friends and family for brainstorming this show with me. Shout outs to the sex positive community, including sex educators, sex therapists, sex coaches, other fellow sex podcasters, sex surrogates, academics, the sexual health medical community, sex workers, the tantric community, and everybody else involved with having hard conversations. Bye-bye.